ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lyle Wallace, school social worker, Orange Public Schools. I'm here to introduce and work with Reggie Miller, the People's Choice, and also Mr. Donald Nicholson, longtime social worker, Orange Public Schools. Tonight, we're going to be talking about why it's important to stay focused and logged in. Reg, Mr. Nicholson, we've been working with kids for a long time. We know that we're going through a storm, so-called pandemic, and I don't mean to say so-called to minimize it. We're going through a pandemic now, and it's affecting the education of our students. A lot of students having a lot of difficulties, either through family strife or just the ups and downs of facing the pandemic and the academic challenges it presents. I'd like to speak to you two gentlemen about why it's important for our students to stay focused and some of the challenges they might be having. I'm gonna let either one of you guys flip a coin, go first. What do you think is causing our students the most difficulties or challenges?
Nick,
Go ahead, Mr. Miller. I'm gonna yield to you, Mr. Miller, and then I'll go next.
All right. I'm the director of the Male Student Support Program here in the Orange Public School District for over 22 years now, and I've been working with youth basically my whole life, working in Orange. And what I noticed, definitely in Orange during the pandemic, we know within Essex County, those 4 cities that have the higher rates, the higher numbers of people that have COVID and passed away from COVID is Orange, East Orange, Irvington, and North. And we are part of that. So a lot of our population is part of the sorrow of the grief that you have from COVID. It might be an aunt, it might be an uncle, it might be a co-worker, it could be the reverend, the deacon at the church. So most of our kids are connected to somebody that had the disease or passed away from the disease. So it causes I would say like a mental rift, especially for a young person. We was talking about this the other day, Mr. Wallace. We talked about how in the past, when we went through things, people of color, we always leaned on religion to get us through. And I think now, in the past, I would say this past decade, you just don't see a lot of kids that's going to church or the masjid or Kingdom Hall. A lot of kids are just video games on the weekend, so they don't have that faith base to help get them through. So your anxiety levels is really at a peak right now within the community. So I think that could be part of it. I think the spirituality is gone. And I think we have so many, just the numbers are so high within our space or within our dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As you were speaking, it dawned on me, the one institution that you didn't mention was the school. Like, so the school has taken on all of that, not that we're preaching in schools, but I mean in terms of that place of comfort for the young kids. Like, our students, they come to school for a lot of things. They come to school for love. They come to school for hot meals. In a lot of cases, they come to school, to socialize. Like, school is big, and parents are very comfortable with the idea of knowing that their kids in school, they're going to be safe, whatever, and students definitely feel safe, but we definitely don't have a whole lot of other things, so there are definitely some things missing. Hence, when we don't have school in session, imagine, the students are, the students who are playing sports, they're struggling. The students who are in, different types of extracurricular activities, be it dance clubs and, stepping programs and all kinds of things. I mean, these students, it's got to be tough. It's absolutely got to be tough. So.
Yeah, so you're talking about the glue that holds a lot of other students together, through socialization, the athletic stuff. And Reg, you talked about parents, and I remember first coming into being a social worker, talking to one of my principals about that. And she said, Mr. Wallace, you're just gonna have to take the parents out of the equation. And I said, how do we do that? She said, it's like baking a cake with no eggs. Sometimes the cake needs to be baked. You don't have the eggs and the eggs come out. I mean, the cake comes out a little lopsided. And I'm not sure if that's an equation to what
I'm
we're
using that.
dealing with.
I'm using that.
Huh?
I'm using that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's where we're at, but definitely the school is taking up the role of being, not only advocates for the children, but also doing that piece by calling home, making sure that they're logged on, even though they're not under our direct watch. Any thoughts or feelings about that, gentlemen?
Nick, you want to go first?
Well, I mean, now you go ahead, unless you want to follow me.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll follow.
You know. All right. So I mean, again, it's just a continuation of, what I was saying before. I mean, there's not enough going on, or I should say that there isn't anything going on. I mean, we're in a pandemic. The kids are locked in, and I say that in quotes. They're locked in. I mean, some of the kids are going out, they're getting out, doing little things, but the idea is I can't go to school. That's enough to do some crazy things to you. So, just trying to be a little bit more in tune, I think, with that, with the kids we've got, like, turning off, like literally, like, they're getting completely turned off, to the point where you have to call students and really kind of encourage them to keep moving. It's okay. Mr. Belton said, put your feet on the floor. It's just things that you just need to just keep grinding and doing what you need to do. It's just tough though, because they don't get fortified through what the school does. They're used to going in that building and hey Johnny, hi Susie, how you doing, baby? Blah blah. That's a lot to miss. Having that teacher, put a hand on your shoulder and be like, all right now, that's a whole different reality, So they're on their own.
Emotional support.
Right.
Yeah, the emotional support I think is key. So I don't know if I answered the question. I kind of was dancing around it.
No, I think you got it. Reg?
I think just to piggyback on where you was going, I think if you don't have that encouragement, because a lot of our kids don't get it from home. Some of them do, but a lot don't get that support or that encouragement from home. And a lot of our teachers give that to certain kids because you have your best pupils, and most of our teachers are doing a good job with tapping you on the shoulder, giving you giving you that verbal hug. I think that's going to help you just get through the day to where the kids gain your trust. So a lot of the kids feel like I can't see my friend, or I can't see my godmother or my godfather. But you know what I mean? Like a surrogate godmother or godfather where I can't see him. And I was telling some teachers before, even though you might teach certain kids, I think on those Wednesdays or certain days, you got to do the 2-minute check-in. Because I put a watch by the phone, and I'm calling houses 2-minute call just to hear your voice, get them on the phone. You good? It's probably a 1 minute and 30-second conversation, but it's a conversation. Because I called to check on you. You good? Yo, you eating? Yo, don't forget, come by to school, da-da-da. And then I tell their mother, all right, now just call me whenever he got a line. Make sure you call me, and we laugh right quick, and I'm gone. Even though it's not what I want to do, but it's something for the boy to just hold on. So the mother can say, all right, now, Miller called here the other day, and just use that for a minute to just tap them mentally to say, yo, you got to keep plugging, you got to keep doing. Wallace, we talked about, I think it was Nicholson or Wallace, we talked yesterday that some of the mothers just don't have that discipline or control over the males or even the girls, so they're doing what they want, which is a sad thing. They waking up late, they coming on late, and that's when those little phone calls, not to complain all the time, but just to check in with the family, will help bridge that gap of, yo, man, I don't feel like doing math today, but if you become sort of like their coach, their godparent, their whatever, it's not math no more. Now it's Miller class. Now it's Miss Jones class, as opposed to math class or science class, because you built that type of rapport with the family, with them, being in a community. So I think, and like you said also, Wallace, I believe, what the principal told you earlier, we don't have a choice. We can't depend on the home structure. We got to do more than being just that regular teacher. You got to be the social worker. You got to be the coach. You got to be the, godparent, surrogate godparent, just in a verbal sense, at least to help them out and push them.
Great points. Mr. Nicholson?
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be tough, today, dealing with some of the behaviors and some of the things that we have going on with our kids. And I'm just thinking from a parent standpoint, like it's always nice to impact other people's children. What we can do with other people's kids is pretty amazing. But what I'd love to push is just the whole idea is that, we can all be a part of it, right? Like I want to feel like a support in you raising your child, right? That's important. It takes a village. I mean, it's cliche, but it's real true. It takes a village. But when you if you drop a kid off at the building and then I'm done until the end of the day and then I come back, or if you put the kid in front of a computer, it's just like putting a kid in front of a TV. It requires structure. And I think that line of communication certainly has to stay there. I mean, I know that it's, if you say something like what I'm saying right now, and you don't qualify it by saying that by no stretch of imagination do I believe that we have all the parents are not able to handle the business the way they need to handle their business. I just think that there is always going to be those cases where we feel like, it's a struggle for this parent and we really have to help them, and do a lot of things when you might be making calls at odd times of day. You might be, sending the kid home with extra support. There's all kind of things, that we do to support. And, so it's a fine line and a very slippery slope. Like I don't ever want a parent to think that I'm certainly not here to support you.
Right.
I am, but it's a partnership and it has to be that. So there's no question as to when you have situations where kids are actually more inclined to follow, your lead or to take your advice as a person who works in the school before they do it from a trusted family member, right, or just a family member in general. And it's great. It feels good to have students respect you that way, but it feels even better when you have the support and the respect of the parent, the respect of the kid, and all these things working. Our resources, in the school will benefit the family, the kid, and the community. So this is why we're pushing that. So, without being too long-winded, I know I was a little long-winded on that.
It's all good. I like that, Nick. Yeah. I want to just reintroduce something also about that trust. And when a kid gains your trust as an adult male, especially a young minority male, that's not going to break unless you do something detrimental to him, because you're almost like a father figure. So, here come, they will never say, here come dad, but that's who we've become to a lot of them, especially when they telling us things outside of school, although it's a little quick 5-minute conversation for us, but to them, it was everything just to let Mr. Wallace know that, Mr. Wallace, man, I just broke up with my girl. I don't feel right. And you gave him the 3-minute gung-ho, you're going to be fine. You don't know 5 years from now, he thinking back, man, when I was hit, Mr. Wallace pulled me to the side, told me da-da-da-da. That stuff lasts. It's long lasting. So it's real powerful. And I think we have to tap in, especially right now during this pandemic. How do we tap into our power? It's just little things we have to do. Like I said, the little phone calls, saying certain things to certain kids at times, especially the right way. Especially if a guy not doing things, we got to tap into why he's not getting up on time. Sometimes it's not your typical being lazy. Sometimes it is an issue in the house. You know what I mean? Because but go ahead, Wallace, you might get into those questions.
No, because I was going to say, I've had an opportunity to work with both of you guys, and I call it the hallway counseling. The Mr. Nicholson got me in the hallway on the way to class counseling. Reg came through the cafeteria and he said a couple of words to me and he was out. But like you said, it was impactful. But I was gonna go back to like some things that you guys said, and I noticed over the years, and it's about rituals and routine. Reg, you opened up the brotherhood the same way. You elaborate on the brothers that have made impacts. You introduce them. Mr. Nicholson, I'm sure the commute that you have. There's a certain routine that you go through every day to get here on time. And school provides a certain routine for students. That's structured. And like what I think we find ourselves in now is that there's no structure. There's no like time that you actually should go to bed. There's no time that you need to get up at that's in their face.
Right.
And I think that removing that structure has caused some of the issues that we might be dealing with now. I mean, how do you guys feel? What do you guys think about routines and structure in your daily life?
And society right now,
Uh-oh.
we got feedback.
You good now?
But society right now is so high, it's fast paced, it's high strung. We all over the place, and we got uncaring, not we, but I mean, oftentimes like our parents and the people who care for our kids. I mean, they're dealing with this hostility. I can't come into the school because I'm about to miss another day of work, and if my kid is not online, but I can't watch him 24 hours a day. So every time, not every time, but a lot of times when we're calling the homes as a result of a kid either not being present or not engaging when they're on the computer. The problem with that is that most of our calls tend to be those negative calls. Picking up the phone and calling somebody for 2 minutes, and I agree with you, Mr. Miller. I would call that an SEL call or a temperature check, because we keep using that term, temperature check, right? Yo, how you doing? What's going on? You might find out in 2 minutes that a person is like, I got COVID. You're talking to kids that got COVID, and they kind of cool about it's not that cool about it, but they just like, I got COVID, and they still positive. Our kids are just so resilient, and they deal with so many things, and the families deal with so many things that if you work here where we work, or you work in any urban center, it has to be a call, and it has to be something that you love. It has to be, because you're going to do things, and you're going to go over and above oftentimes, and you're just going to, at the end of the day, you're not going to have anything left. And so that's just what it is. So if you don't love what you're doing, this is a place that'll drive you crazy. You better love it. You better love the kids, and you better get something from what it is you're doing, because it's rougher. I don't know about you guys, but not being able to see the kids, not being in the building, not being able to run around and act a fool like we like to do sometime. And, it's just, the kids, they need to understand too, that we're impacted by it as well. Yeah. We just have to have a few years on them, a little bit more wisdom, and, we have better coping mechanisms purely based on age. And you guys are thinking, well, one of y'all older than me. So
I might be George Miller. I'm a double.
Nah, man, that's the other bald-headed dude.
Oh yeah.
We're both older than you, Nick. We both older. We just
really?
look younger. We just look younger.
Yeah, we just.
I don't think Brother Miller is younger than me. I don't think he's older than me. I know that for a fact.
Okay, all right.
But Reg, the last brotherhood meeting we had, it was in the park. I remember everybody gathering around. You poured out you gave something for the brothers that weren't here. You had a lot of speakers. We were able to get together as a group, and I think of it as like a tribal group that I felt that kind of presence.
Right.
Was that the last time that you got to meet with a bunch of students in person?
Yes, it's killing me right now. Just like Mr. Nicholson said, I was floored since the spring. For one, not only I had COVID early, so I was one of the early ones that got it, and it rocked my world. Basically, it was like you went through when a kid let's say over in Africa, like 400 years ago, you gotta just to reach manhood, you gotta go on this pilgrimage or whatever. You gotta go slay the lion and come back.
A rite of passage.
Thank you, Nick. You gotta go to the rites of passage and come back. Now you a man. Going through COVID and what I went through for those 3 weeks, being alone, having a fever, this and that, it's like you go through something.
Mm.
And when I was like, you come out different when you go through that. And when I came out different was when April, I'm feeling better, then everything went haywire. Everything I thought we would get back to, I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna be back in school by June. It just kept going. So it threw me off. I had like the end of the year, you know, I had to do my brotherhood day and bring in a lot of kids in and speakers. We had to do a Zoom for that. That
Mm.
was okay, but it just threw me off because I'm not a techie guy. I'm a hands-on guy. I like I like to touch. Always, one thing I always tell people, when you touch a young man's shoulder, just put your hand on, touch his shoulder and say hello. That means a whole lot. You can shake his hand, that's cool, but when you touch his shoulder, you already showing him that I'm the elder and you the young one. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Yeah.
those like physical things mean a lot. And I like always, like every day when I go to the high school, middle school, I gotta touch and grab young people all the time and say, yo man, what's going on? How you doing? Da, da, da. And I'm tapping them and touching them to connect. And
Mhm.
when you don't have that connection, do it bother me? Yes. But like Mr. Nicholson said, I'm leaning on my faith base. I'm leaning on conversations. I am a little older, working out more. That's helping. But it is different now for them. They can't even tap in because a lot of them don't even have sports to fall back on. I don't even think basketball started yet, right? Or they not?
I don't think
They
so.
shut it,
Yeah, I don't think
they shut it
basketball. They
down at
haven't
some point.
practiced yet.
Yeah.
No, what is it? Normally after Thanksgiving, basketball
Thanksgiving
practice
started.
starts.
Basketball practice starts. So now they're saying January, I think, for a start for that. Or they may not even have a high school basketball season
That
this year.
happened.
And you
Yeah.
feel it's just gonna, it's the type of thing where a lot of young men relied on those certain people, those certain sports that got them through. Now all you have is like all you have is academics and a computer.
You had some people that kept, they stayed, they made sure their GPA was a certain level, yours truly, just so
Yeah,
that they would be eligible to play those
that's
sports.
it. That's it. I was king of the C minus D plus. That was me.
And
I
me
mean, I'm
too.
telling you, that was they laughing. Yo, y'all don't know, man. I'm like, I was happy with it. Yo, I got a 78. Oh, I was good. They like
You
78.
Oh,
That
slid
was
in
A
there.
for me. That was an
You
A.
slid
I
in,
think
right, Reg?
Yeah.
Nick?
I think that people sometimes they look at the results. So they'll look at where we are now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they'll try to push back and go, yeah, I assume you were a good student. I assume you did X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
Man, it's like the stuff we came through. Like I mean, these jokers need to understand. Like it's a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of failing grades, a lot of leaving college when the first time around, and and went back and experienced some different things. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's 55 years of wisdom there. But you
Right.
don't get
Mm-hmm.
a chance to meet the 7-year-old version of me, or the 15-year-old version, or the 19-year-old version, and so on and so forth. And so I think that when we get to know the kids and they start asking us questions, and I always laugh because Reg was talking about putting the hands on,
Mm-hmm.
touching a young brother on the shoulder. And I told people that all the time. They get caught up in like, oh, we're not supposed to do this, we're not supposed to do that. I said, all right, if I take a kid and I put him in a headlock
Then you
and I
mad.
walk him down the hallway and we having a conversation, if that kid freaks out, then I know that there's no relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, most of the kids they will allow you into their space,
Mm-hmm.
but it comes at a price, and the price is you have to pay. You have to pay them by giving your time, always saying what you mean, and following up and following through as best you can, because the kids will be very forgiving. You promise them a pizza and you don't bring the pizza, they're gonna remind you 19 times.
19th time.
They'll remind you every day. But when you get the pizza, they're like, listen, it's all good.
Because
But
you
but
came through.
those, yeah, and you just talking about the pizza. Like, I ain't forget about the pizza. Lord Jesus, I keep forgetting. But our kids hold us accountable as well. And I think, if you're lucky enough to work in the same building with the same kids for long periods of time, you're able to establish even better relationships. with a lot of kids. And if not, what happens is you tend to get their families. So, older cousins younger cousins and, oh, my cousin talked about you or this, that, and the other thing. So after a while, you kind of feel like a person that's in the community. So I don't know.
It sounds like we miss the relationships just as much as the kids do.
Oh, definitely. I have.
Probably. Listen, it's possible that we miss them more because we have more kids to miss.
Yeah.
Right. They can't appreciate that we're missing 750 kids right now, or certainly the ones that you see every day. It's really tough. I get fueled by it. So you know what I mean?
Right.
Without that fuel,
that's my energy. People don't understand that. You need that energy definitely on a daily basis. Now, fellas, just recently, people were saying this is the worst year, 2020. I was an advocate. I was saying that a lot, especially my pops passed away in August, and we had a cool relationship.
Condolences.
Yeah, thank you, man. And that rocked me. So September, October, I'm running around, man, I can't wait till this year. Oh, it's the worst year. How come 3 weeks ago, right before the week of Thanksgiving, I find out my favorite cousin, a little older than me, got COVID, and he died the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Rocked me. My best friend, Connie, that live in Boston, went to Orange High, graduated with me, 85. He went to Bridgeport, I went to Rutgers. That's my man. Got colon cancer hitting him hard right now. Just like my man from Black Panther. Same thing, just hitting him out of nowhere. I'm like, he has stage 4. I'm like, I need to be quiet with saying it can't get worse, because it can.
It can.
Right.
I need to be thankful. I gotta be thankful for just waking up for what we have, and so many people concentrating on what we don't have and what we're missing as opposed to what we have. Like the district, I'm telling kids, man, you got to be thankful that we're sponsoring you with education, even from home. We're giving you what you need, and to have that Wednesday to work on stuff, this and that. I'm really on them like, bruh, excuses, stop. You can't. It ain't too many excuses you can give, because we're making it as simple and uniquely done for you and just to set up for you and your household. You're making it real easy for everybody. So
Reg, you gave a microcosm of what's happening in the Black community as far as COVID within your own personal life.
Yeah, I'm going through it. Man.
You know, and it's so funny. It strikes us, first unemployment hits us hard, then, any epidemic that comes through hits us hard.
And now harder, you mean hits us harder. Right.
Harder, hits us harder than anybody else. And now, like you said, a pandemic that has weaponized the body. That's what I look at. I'm like, people's own bodies have become weapons against other people. And, yet I still see people walking around without face masks, people not social distancing.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out, I'm scratching my head and I'm going like, what's going on? What message they did not get that I got?
Right. Because they're not connected to people that they lost or have it. And normally that's people in that age range, 18 to 35, that's still la with this thing. Our age group, that 45 to 80, we taking this, whoa, our eyes is wide because we losing friends and people, you know what I mean? COVID waiting on.
You said 45 to 80.
Yeah, that crew. Everybody, that's the older crew.
Yo, older crew.
I know it was a big gap.
That, right?
I'm just saying, all of us older. When as soon as you get mature, you just mature at that time. We taking this thing a little more serious. Like I have a nephew. He just became like, I'm glad he graduated college. He working at a school. That's cool. He pledged and went over in February. He became an alpha. That's nice in the long term, but in the short term, it's party time once you just went over. So is he taking this thing? Everything is a good time. I'm like, bro, you got to be careful. What are you doing? I know I got you on correct. And I know once he walked away from me, it's right back to, doing whatever. I know he's going to settle down at some point, but right now it's not the settling down time. How do we tap them also? Which is the which is a big soul.
You just did.
But what we see Nick, now you got to think. Now I was like this, just like my cousin that passed. He was 6 years older than me. I would listen to him and my older brother. When I was 14, I would listen to the 20-year-old before my father sometime because they was the
That's
cool
right.
dudes on the block. I gotta listen to them. I would rather get in trouble when I got home, but I gotta do what they saying right now. And I think a lot of our 14-year-olds, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, they listening to the guys 24. They seeing these guys 25 that's in their family telling them, oh man, don't get no vaccine. Oh man, I ain't doing none of that. And it's just bad information being passed down, I think, right now too.
But do you think it's bad information? And I'm going to go into this. Do you, based on historical way that Blacks have been?
Tuskegee, yeah.
Yes, Tuskegee. We might as well put it out on the table.
Yeah, put it out there. Yeah.
You know, what about you, Mr. Nicholson? You have a son in that age group. I mean, is it a difficult conversation?
My son is in graduate school. He's home in his room studying, and and when he has to go to campus, I'm having the same conversation with him almost every day. Yo, you got your mask. You're sanitizing the office spaces that you're utilizing on the campus, because he has a couple of things going on where he's in 2 different offices. And so it's so my concern is just by me asking. He'll look at me like, yeah, Dad, I got my mask, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So having somebody constantly beating you over the head with something helps. He may not need it, but I know he thinks about it. I don't want to hear my dad's mouth. Let me grab my mask. Let me make sure I got my little cleaning supplies. Let me make sure I'm social distancing. So, I mean, that's just a matter of just having somebody in his ear. So that kind of takes us full circle, because it's like, like that. And he's 23 years old, going on 24. I'm still his father. It's not parenting in that sense, but it's like man to man. We having man to man conversations. Are you being safe? It's the same thing. If he saw me walking out the house and I didn't have my mask on, he'd be like, Dad, where your mask at? Or, because I forgot, because I'm old. Or he'll have those kinds of conversations with me, like, he'll ask me certain things about, well, I didn't see you do that or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I did. You just didn't see me when I got to the car or whatever. It's just regular conversations where it's a constant bantering back and forth. However, we recognize that we care both about each other and we want to make sure that we're safe. Can be a pain. So it's a family thing. My wife, she come right behind me and do the same thing. She'll tell them the same stuff.
So it's getting in.
All up in that air.
Right.
So he's got it, and there's nobody else in the house. It's just 3 of us. So of course he's gonna get that. And Mom is at home on the computer. I'm at home on the computer. He's at home on.
You know what?
So yeah.
You know what? And I'm sure he probably thought like this. All my friends knew my mother and father because I talked about them when they wasn't around. Now, when they was around giving me the jewels, I act like I wasn't really listening, but I left and was like, yo, man, Betty, Craig, ain't no way I'm doing this, that, and the third. She done already gave me the blueprint. Yo, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm like, yo, my father crazy, I ain't doing this. They may not thought that I had it, but I had it. Like, you may not think he getting it, but like you said, once he go to his crew, they all know y'all probably. Because he probably talk about you to them. That means it's getting in, it's there. Because they got to play cool. You can't let your mother know, that little machismo thing. You can't let your parents know, like, okay, Mom, you got to still have a little resistance just to in case I get, that's the machismo.
Well, you know what, Brother Miller, I'm gonna say this, and again, I know that it's very painful when you lose a parent, because I lost my father and my mother. I don't even remember the dates. I try not to, and I don't think about it too much because it takes me to a place.
Right.
And I know that's tough. And it's very difficult. But I do know that, when you look at age and, even because I didn't have the best relationship with my father. So I think that's kind of where I was going with that. So we didn't talk a lot when I was young. So the very thing we're talking about now, where we would be talking to our kids about these are the things you need to do. My father never did that. And he never did that. So if we had COVID going on back then, I probably would have caught it. if I would have, I wouldn't have had no guidance.
Your father's
doing
see you in a few.
My father was, the only thing he would say weird things, but never like he wouldn't sit me down and tell me the things I think that all the things I talk to my son about. So it was a different kind of thing. Mom wasn't even in the picture because she was in another state. So I recognize that you can still make positive decisions or good decisions when you don't necessarily have people that are in your immediate cipher, right? If you got one person, the pastor of the church, or like you said, like it could be anybody, that teacher at the school, Mr. Parker. I always say Mr. Parker.
Okay.
I had Mr. Parker.
Mr. Parker.
My PE teacher. Oh yeah.
That was the dude.
Mr. Parker. He was and he's still doing his thing. Always well dressed. Right. Always well spoken. Right. He go off on me, like for real would go off on me, and just us for doing crazy things when we were in high school. But when I came back to the district to work there, and he saw me in the main office, oh, I'm coming in, I'm a professional. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, it was for him to validate me when I walked in. It was amazing when that happened. And he was the only dude that gave me a present when I graduated from high school. Not money. Money is not a present. Money's money. A present is like a shirt. He gave me a cool polo shirt. I'll never forget it. Right. So it made a lot of difference. When I left and went to college, even though I was successful the first time, there was definitely some people that wanted to make sure that even though that didn't work out, that I kept moving. Keep making decisions, because you're not going to be successful. You know what I mean? You got to leave if you're not going to be successful. So you need people to keep putting their foot in, keep kicking you to let you know that you cannot sit still on anything. So
they got their neck on.
Yeah, they got to hit you. No, these kids got to know. They got to know that. Like, somebody needs to hold you accountable, and you can't run away from people that you care about that want to make you accountable. Right? It's not like you're not cowering or anything. You're simply letting somebody else have some amount of control over your thinking to some degree. It's nothing wrong with, you know what I mean?
We talking about this week, Wallace, in class, we was talking about how we lie to people we love. Wow. Because it started with, my 4 L's. I do a workshop on that, but because they in that age group now in the middle school where first you lazy in the elementary, then you start lying in the middle school. So they at that level where they can get away with a lie, tell a lie, this and that. Most guys will fight you over their mother. Or you do something to their mother, they're stand in front of their mother and take the bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Then I ask them, so why you lie to them? And it's like, whoa, like, so that's the thing we was tackling, because they can lie and say they logged in earlier today if their mother was at work. I always lied to my mother and told her I didn't have homework when I did. Every day I had homework. Every day I lied. So we talk about how do you get around lying and being comfortable, lying to people you love, especially your guardians or your parents that only want the best thing for you. You know, they not giving you no devil worship and none of that. They want you to do the right thing. And we find a way to just try to sabotage without even realizing we're sabotaging the relationship. We don't have to.
Maybe we lie to the ones that we love because we don't want to disappoint them.
That's part. Yeah, we talked about that too. Yeah.
One of the things I remember is somebody coming in, being a halfway decent football player. There was one guy that came to my house. He didn't want to hear about no points. He didn't want to hear about no football. His first question was, "How them grades?" And I would try to avoid him. I would try to. I'd be like, "Oh, Mr. Williams is coming over," but I know the grades ain't looking too tight, so didn't want to lie, but knew he was going to find out. And he was that one person that held me accountable for that particular thing. Wow. We talk about people influence in the quick conversation. I had a coach, Bob Lester.
Yeah, he was the man.
All-time legend.
I always wanted to play for him, man.
He guided me from sophomore year, and even when I was in the military, Mr. Nicholson, I could hear that voice. He's like, "Don't give up. keep running around, keep doing this and that. And it was that male mentor, that black male mentor that guided me, I would say, until early adulthood. I could hear his voice. You know, I could even like him in my head when I was getting ready to make a mistake, you know, or do something stupid, you know. So long after people leave from what we call our purview, we influence them. We just don't know it. Or you might find out if you're lucky enough to have one of those young people come up to you and say, you know, you really had an effect on my life. And they might not say it that way, but they're going to say it if they see you and they're true to themselves. So that's why I appreciate working with you guys, because I steal from Nick, I steal from Reg, I steal from Mr. Torres, I steal from Belton. And you know, you make it your own, you know, but it's all genuine advice that we give these kids.
Right.
Yeah. I don't steal, I borrow it.
Oh no! Oh, Matt, and know what, Nick? On the flip side, a lot of adults have to realize kids know when you're lying. So that's the one that's hurtful, when you hitting the kid in the head and they looking at you like, "Come on, man, stop." You know what I mean? That's the one that really hurts. That's what burned the
You
bridge.
on the spectrum. You on the spectrum with that, Reg, because you got the kid that's lying potentially because of whatever. The parent that might be lying for whatever, right? And now you also have a situation where you have parents who know their kid is lying, but will not hold them accountable or responsible for fear of, oftentimes for fear of not wanting to deal with the repercussions. I don't want to hear his whining. I don't want to have this argument. I don't want to have this discussion. So it's a whole litany of things. You done burnt your own mom out.
Right.
She don't even want to have a conversation. He lying. I ain't got time to be work. I got to go to work.
This is why they get kicked out at 22, 23.
Reg, and Nick, I had a phone call.
18 in a day, bro.
We can't talk
18 in a wake up.
Right.
I called up somebody's house the other day, and it was about failures. And you know, mom, and I'm not saying that she wasn't doing her job, but I'm trying to find out why he's failing. And she's like, "Oh, hold it, just wait a second. Let me go wake him up." It was 10:30. And I'm sitting up there like, he's supposed to be logged on right now.
Yeah,
so she told me.
He had class at 8:30, right?
So, you know, just one of those things.
But these are great stories. I mean, I remember as a young professional working at Job Corps, and this was like that first professional job that I had. Right, that's the one where you. I actually get to use that second degree and be like, okay, I'm qualified for this particular job.
A second degree.
So I'm on the job, and I'm in my office and I'm doing what I do. Right. It's time for students to go home. We got to process leave forms and all these different things, right? It's a quick leave, the paperwork you fill out. So everything lovely. Saturday, I think it was Saturday. I have to work on some Saturdays. I come in and the kid is like, why are you here? He's all upset, right? And I'm like, well, what's the problem? Like, so it turns out he actually went home and obviously he was over 18. Mom gone. Dad gone, ain't nobody home. They gone, they left. They left no forwarding address, no information. Done. Yo, and it was, and I'm sitting there going, wow.
Yeah, that's deep.
They finish with you.
Right.
You going to Job Corps was an opportunity for them to make a break. I mean, I simplified the story, but the reality is that, you know, our parents are not whipping posts. They're here to support. And ultimately, your relationship will show. Like, your parents will let you know. Like, if your parents tell you soon you turn 18, you got to go. Because they sense that at 18, you ain't going to be doing nothing. But show me a parent with a kid is doing something. Military, college, trade school, doing something, and I'll show you a parent that maybe they might want you gone, but they'll work with you.
Yep.
So,
Nicholson, I want to commend you too, man. Just looking at the dynamics of having a degree on the wall, and a lot of young men in our community we work with do not understand why that is so important to have a degree on the wall. and especially that college degree. High school, cool, but the college one going on the wall. And
it's even more important to have your sons.
that's what I'm saying. So because he looked at, even if you didn't have you, like I always use the dynamic of Glen Ridge, you know, the father went to Seton Hall, the degree on the wall, the son come in and see that every day. That's where he going to school. His grandfather probably went to Seton Hall. That's how you create legacy. And I'm telling kids, we have to create certain legacies, but we need men just to step up and do those things. In terms of just being around those mentors, because our fathers or our surrogate fathers, somebody did that for them. I didn't know, Wallace, you just hitting me that coach was that dude for you. You never told me about Bob Lester. You never said nothing to me about Lester. We done talked for years. Never knew
Well, keep it secret, though. He keep it secret.
No, I'm not keeping it secret.
Yeah, because he's Nicholson. He is legendary. That's definitely that dude. But
I don't know him. I don't know him.
Yeah, he coaches Hall of Fame, all that stuff. He the dude.
Wow.
Orange first. He was a legacy at East Orange, then went to Montclair, created a whole nother legacy.
Yeah.
So he's like big in East Orange, Montclair, really Jersey with coaching. But
Atlantic City too.
Right.
Y'all know why I came up. Stop playing.
But what I'm saying is, Reg, I didn't mean to just point him out. I'm just saying that that was the person that had that effect on me. And those are the same types of conversations we have with kids all the time. You know, we encourage them. We lift them up when they're down. You know, sometimes they lift me up when I'm down. You know, and it's interesting that there's only a few people that play the position that we play. There's only one Reg Miller. There's only one Donald Nicholson, only one Lyle Wallace. You know, what happened to the rest of the men in our community that should be doing the same thing? And I mean, I don't need to get into it.
I was in the Nick, could I hit it right?
Go ahead, Reg.
I was talking to a colleague yesterday, the brother that's working with me, the power professional, because I had some resource guys in my class. So the power gonna come in, help out with the guys. We there doing our numbers. When we got off at 12:15, me and him talked about his father and my father for another hour online. Just me and him, like us right here, talking about the same thing you talking about, Wallace, and how, you know, just that father figure, that man, how do you go about this thing? Because he's a little young, he's an adult, he's 40, but I'm 53. So I'm the OG, and he was talking about, where are the men in our community? Where did they go? And it's like, we don't have a lot for a lot of the young men to say, yo, that's that guy. Or, because I ain't gonna lie, when I was in Montclair, had a lot. Orange had many when I was growing up. Newark had a lot. I ain't gonna lie, Newark, East Orange. But once they leave, those guys are not there. So these young guys, they don't have, I mean, it's hard for them. They can't fall back on. There's nothing to fall back on. They just falling forward. You know how you fall back on somebody to help you. They falling forward on their face. They don't have nobody to go to, which is sad. And I'm just feeling like I'm a little disappointed in not only their family structure, the whole nine. I'm disappointed sometimes at the school structure. We have to do things a little better. I don't want us to only focus on maths and science as opposed to the socialism of a kid. Social studies is huge, or that socialism of studying your environment, you know, because if the kid don't understand who he is as an individual, math will never be important. Science will never be important to him. And our powers that be gotta understand that. Some of them do in certain districts, they understand it, but overall they don't. One kid asked me, well, Mr. Miller, what about at the state level? I said, man, you got to think, bro, Jersey winning championships for high school education. They number one in the country. They're not changing the framework, not up top. We already winning. That's and I equated it to the Lakers. I said, if the Lakers win a championship, why they going to move LeBron to the center if he was doing good at the point? They're not going to change what they're doing. So New Jersey not going to change what's going on. Now, Orange is equivalent, or certain cities, Newark, Jersey City, we're equivalent to somebody deep on the bench right now. We're not getting a lot of run, but we're going to have to change over the summer so we can work our way to the starting lineup. What do we got to do? Because the team not going to change, but we got to change individually so we can start on the, you know what I mean? So we can get more run for the most part. And
Mm.
Wallace, what you're saying is for us to get better, men gotta be a part of that, or it won't, you know what I mean? So that's why I think that's the side that, you know, we have to try to help and change in terms of the school system. How do we get more men to do those nuances, those little things, plugging them in here and there, you know?
Right.
We can
Nick?
go other places. I'm sorry, man. I just
Hey,
You
bro,
passionate?
sometimes-
You passionate, Nick? You were
I
gonna
think-
say something?
I mean, you know, I think that there's certainly men out there who would love to have more of an impact. I think they oftentimes, man, you might have a brother who might want to say something to a young brother, and they automatically know that if I say something, like this joker gonna say something to me that's crazy. We got young teens out here beating old dudes up or older dudes up. They jumping them like because you said something, you know, to them, and they like it just turns into something crazy. And then now, you know, the older gentleman, you know, brother, he got a little pride. Like it ain't like he, you know, like you done said something foul, he done said something back to you. Next thing you know, the whole situation out of control. We got brothers out here that are really trying to protect themselves from, you know, yoking somebody's kid up. Like it's very, very scary. You see, we're in a safe environment because we're in a school and the students know, well, if you jump on Mr. Nick, it's gonna be a problem.
Right, because you got
But
grown
you on
man
the
strength.
street,
Mhm. Yeah,
but on
yeah.
the street, though, ain't no rules on the street. So it's kind of like, you know, we're blessed in that way where we actually, it's not that we can't roll into the street. I think that, you know, and even that, I'm not, you know what I mean? It's you
Nick,
get
I
out there.
did-
and you see
But
somebody-
Nick,
you
I
think
did-
the absence of the fathers in the family have contributed to that? Because if you're used to a man coming at you, you know, you'll take it from an
Yeah.
elder, you know, regardless of whether you're in a school setting or not. You know,
No, I
like-
get you. I absolutely,
That's-
you know, but I can't argue with that. I mean, that's, yeah. I
So
mean, you
it's
need
not the
brothers to be around and you need brothers to be going hard.
mhm.
I mean, I think the dynamic, I always laugh about the dynamic is like, there's nothing like a woman who is protecting a child,
Mhm.
but without that dude, without that, and it doesn't have to be dad, but you got to be able to listen. Like, you can't keep calling that boy. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
Right?
I-
Or better yet, you can't keep answering for that boy. If I ask my son a question
Yeah.
and my wife answers,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Oh,
I'm
Wallace.
about to lose my mind.
Yeah, me too.
Wallace.
Oh,
But I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I learned I feared my father before I loved him.
Right. Right.
I
That's
mean-
what we grew up with. Thank you, Wallace. I like
I
that.
feared him,
I
Nick.
ain't,
Right.
I ain't
No.
have none of that. My father was 5'7".
My
No,
father,
you laughing.
6 feet.
My father was 5'7". He was about 119 pounds, soaking wet. He looked like Sammy Davis Jr.
Yo,
Listen, man.
Yeah.
Y'all think hold up. My father was, I didn't know my father had went to college and gone to college. I didn't know. He got an associate's degree back in the 60s. I didn't know. My father was on the low. He was revolutionary. He would always, when he did talk to me about things related to school as I got older, he would say things like, be careful. Because he saw as I was becoming more conscious that there were things that my mind was starting to open up to some, and he just told me, and I remembered all that. Like, he didn't talk much, but he told me just be careful.
right. Because
You
he
know,
knows
and
what
that was
role-
that, because I knew exactly what he was saying. So
Brad, but I don't think it had anything to do with height or weight, even though my father I just think that the bass in his voice, you know, what I knew he was capable of doing, and the fact that he carried a little size, all contributed to me being fearful. You know, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing.
Yo, I tell a story all the time, and I'm done. I gotta say this quick story. We was at I think Nick heard this one before, probably Wallace. I was down in Newark at my cousin Frank that passed away. We playing football outside. They older, so I'm with the older crew. We outside playing street football, right, in Newark. My father coming to pick me up. So he parks in this man's driveway, a white dude that lived next door. This is in the 70s. So a lot of white people still live in the north. And my father playing his, he chilling, had a caddy, whatever, doing his numbers, right? So he parked in the man's driveway. He was just going inside to see my aunts and all them chill out while we outside playing. So the man driveway, the man drives up, he blowing his horn. Hey, somebody car. I said, that's my father's car. I'm gonna run up and get him. He'll be right back down to move his car. The man cursed, like, tell him to hurry the, he said a curse word. So to me, I'm like 10 years old, like, yo, no, he didn't. So the dude's outside, they waiting, you know, street football, we gotta wait. So I go get my father. I said, Dad, you gotta move your car. He coming downstairs. And even coming downstairs, protocol was right. He walked first, I'm behind him skipping. I said, Dad, that man cursed at me. My father stopped at the bottom of the stairs. He said, what? I said, yeah, the man cursed at me. He said, okay. So my father walked straight up to the car, to the man, and said, did you curse at my son? And before the man said something, my father stole him. Just straight. I'm like, yo, all my boys, we outside like, yo, like where that came from? The man, this is the crazy part. Nick, the crazy part, the man didn't do nothing. So now that scared me so much. Like if he's stealing strangers, what are you gonna do to me? The man, my father moved his car, walked away from him like I would not recommend that to nobody nowadays. But he showed something like, not only does he protect me, but he showed me something that the fear level was like, yo, I can't cross this dude. You know what I mean? I gotta listen to what he's talking about. You know what I mean? He worked every day, blah, blah, blah. So I just took certain things like, yo, man, that and the fear factor, like you said, Wallace, I was fearful before the love part came in. You know what I mean? And the fear was real because, like, you know, your mother give you a beating for 20 minutes. Your father just hit you once and you're going to cry longer from one hit from him than your mother hitting you with the belt all day long. So I like that, Wallace. I think we haven't built that. You got to build I ain't say you got to build the fear, but it helps. If you have a fear-based.
That's healthy fear.
Healthy respect.
Healthy fear.
They used to call it healthy respect.
It's the healthy,
yeah.
But that healthy fear, I think
Wallace,
people focus on the word fear. Stop focusing on the word fear. Focus on the word healthy. Because if your child is thinking about what you're gonna do to him, if he catch you doing something he ain't got no business doing, it may stop him from doing it. Oh, that's healthy.
Right.
It's like construction.
I don't know what else to call that. But if I know I can go out and steal, I'm gonna go out and steal. I'm gonna get in some trouble. I'm gonna come home, and there's not gonna be any consequences. Well, the environment is basically telling me, "Oh, I'm wide open. I can do whatever I want to do." There has to be boundaries and limitations set. You show me a kid that's 8 years old, and he'll tell you he's not comfortable when there's no adults around. He's not comfortable when there's no supervision.
Right.
He don't want to feel like he can do whatever he wants to do. He don't feel safe, and I think we have to understand that as well.
Nick, the kids are looking for structure. They looking for it.
Oh, what? Definitely.
They looking.
Definitely. We can agree on that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And this is the absence of structure right now, as far as we know it. You know, I'm not sure if we're about ready to wrap up. We've been chatting for about 56 minutes, fellas. Does anybody want to have any conclusions to this conversation?
Well, yeah.
What
do we want the kids? What do we want the kids to get out of? Like, I guess that's a good way of kind of wrapping it up. It's like, I guess what we've been talking about is really, we've been talking about sort of our relationships with certain individuals in our lives and being responsible in your decision making and things like that, guys. So we know one of the first, I mean, not one of the first, but one of the 5 major tenets of SEL is about responsible decision making. Right. So we talk about SEL, but we want to talk about it in more like put it in context of what that organization says and how it's supposed to look, and just to kind of tie it in, because we all professionals here, right? It's like, responsible decision making. You don't have to tell the average kid, that they have to do that. If you live in the right household and you're not making responsible decisions, there will be consequences. You might leave with a cupcake on your forehead,
consequences
or something.
Who used to say?
Yeah. Grandma done hit you upside your head with a cupcake or something on a cane. Like I don't see why we turn out fine.
Yeah. You know, and then we might all predate DIFUS.
See, right, but hey, Nick, go ahead. You finish, Nick?
No, I'm done, man. I'm done.
I think, boy, my mind is so many places, and I understand what you're saying, Nick. But I just feel what we need to do is just the kids know where we come from, because the kids can feel who love them and who don't.
Yeah.
And that's when the discipline you can provide, or you can provide some hands-on structure for a kid when they know you got their best interest at heart. If they know you just doing this for your own bravado, it's gonna be a clash all the time. You know what I mean? Nick, some of us can break our fights without touching kids. We come up in the room, yo, stop, it's over. Because they don't want, you know, like, yo, y'all don't want me to get in a fight because everybody losing. So it's just, I think now with the young people, especially during this COVID, as we come out of it, I just want them to know that, okay, the light is off right now, but you're going to be exposed in a minute. And we did talk about, I mean, Mr. Nick talked about this yesterday, how college entries and high school, they're going to have to understand, like, they're going to be like a 2 to 3 year gap of education that some kids just won't have coming out of high school, that they're going to be missing, as opposed to kids from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Certain things you're going to have because certain things we're going to be missing. That doesn't mean because when the light come back on, you're going to have to get up to speed. I'm trying to tell kids, just stay at a certain level that when we go back to normalcy, that you're not so far behind that you quit. Because a lot of our kids, by the time the kids that quit high school normally now, I feel, are limited. That's why they quit. They have limited skills in high school because they was playing in the middle school and in elementary. So right now we at that stage in COVID where it's middle school. Soon we're gonna be at that, like, we're gonna get back to normal. Try not to be behind. So you got to find ways. I'm trying to promote a lot of YouTube with kids. Like, if you don't understand algebra, in class, well, this afternoon, look up algebra for teens on YouTube. You're gonna have 45 videos. You pick one and just listen to it for 5 minutes. Pick another one for 5 minutes. One of them gonna tap you the way you're gonna understand the structure of what they're talking about, and it's gonna help you. And I always let kids know, y'all got an abundance of resources that we just didn't have. Y'all got to take advantage of them, which they're not doing. That's all. We got to take advantage of our resources. There's so many.
And I'd like to say, you know, if you live in an environment where you feel like there's not structure, create your own structure. You know, one of my things was to always know what I didn't want to be. I might not have known what I wanted to be, but I knew what I didn't want to be. You know, I knew that I wanted to have a certain lifestyle by the time I was 24. I always thought I was going to have a bachelor pad, plenty of female friends coming through, you know, but I wanted to know what it took to create that. And I always thought that my education was the only thing that was going to lift me up, even though I struggled, you know, even though it didn't come to me naturally. I had to study harder than other people. But I'm saying, if you're one of those kids, like Mr. Miller just said, go out, you know, look at a YouTube video. You look at YouTube for everything else. Why not look up YouTube algebra? Why not look up YouTube English or whatever other subject you're struggling?
You got everything. Don't be looking at knockouts and twerking. You got
the fact that they have people arguing now that it's because they have access to all the information that it makes it like it's a problem. And it's like, it can't be a problem if you're just focusing on the stuff that you enjoy, right? But there's so many other things that you don't even know you would enjoy. Like, you don't know what you don't know. But trying to explain that to a kid that's, you know, 10 through 18, you know, like, you know, sometimes they're not trying to hear that. It just sounds like old man wisdom.
It's not old man
and
wisdom.
This gray beard don't help.
Nah, it's smooth though. You playing, yeah, you look like some old Teddy Pendergrass album. You chilling, but I hear what you're saying.